Come on, I know it's broken, but can we at least get it to cooperate a little bit? There you go. Now it's too far. That's super helpful. Good job. I don't have to get a new computer when I have the money. Alrighty, so yeah, last night was a step out for dealing with health problems, such as life. Probably could have left you running for a few minutes, but I didn't know how sick I was going to be. So, yeah. So working on these product design ideas, I was playing around with a lot of these dissected shape puzzles, like the tangrams, and I really think some of these might be fun as coasters. I might just make some hand cut or hand shaped finished wood puzzles and paint them. But I kind of think it would be fun to do a set of drink coasters that are like they have they have the main shape of the coaster with the interior portion of the coaster possible to pop out and play around with as a puzzle and put it all a bit back together for using it as a coaster. Now you can still take the coaster and flip it over and put your drink on the back while you try to sort out the pieces on the table. And I think for an activity to do with friends when you're drinking, to be able to each have a puzzle to work on, like having a set of coasters that you can do as puzzles. Um, there are several different puzzles that I can do, very well known. Like you can do the tangrams, and uh, tangrams are the ones where you have one, two, three, four, five, six, seven um, different shaped tiles. Three of them are triangle, or four of them are one, two, three, four, five of them are triangles. One of them's a square, and one of them's a four-sided diamond. Essentially, I forget what that is. Rhombic tetrahedron? No, that's not right. Rhombic tetrahedron would be a three-dimensional form. Anyway, um, so you've got these different shapes that they form a nice, neat square. So you'd put the square inside a larger square and be able to use it as a coaster. But if you flip out the pieces and turn the coaster over, you can put your drink down, and then with a deck of cards or something like that that suggests the different shapes you can make them into, like a person carrying a triangle, person riding a horse, a dragon, a running person, a person in a boat, things like that. You can take the shapes and arrange them to make those. It's sort of a classic impressionistic shape toy. It's also possible to take two tangrams squares and combine all the pieces in them into one larger square that's not like a rectangle or irregular shape. They all fit neatly into a perfect square again. So the idea of having a set of like 6 10-gram coasters, it's appealing. It's something you could play with your friends. Like, can you figure out how to combine these back into a perfect square? That's, I mean, if you're using these as something to do when you're drinking with friends, making all the pieces fit back into a square while you're drunk might be enough of a challenge. Making it so that two of you or pairs of you try to combine yours into a larger square, that's another fun challenge to try to do. And then if you have a means of uh, suggesting, like an app on your phone or something, suggesting shapes to make in tangrams, and you all compete to try to make the same one, who can do it fastest or something like that. that this could all be fun. Now, I'm not going to build the app for a phone on this one, but building a tangram set of coasters, I could probably do. Now, I could also do a few of these other. There's another style puzzle where you have three squares that are split up in certain ways, and the question is, can you combine them into one single larger square? There are a few of those types of puzzles in here. A few of them are also in the round. Um, so, I mean, there's some puzzles like that are classic, old school. How do these pieces fit together? Style puzzles, and doing some of them as coasters might be kind of fun. Doing a few handmade decorative ones might be a challenge. Um, Depending on what material I get access to. I do think I can probably do this in some simple wood pieces and give them a waterproof finish. But a couple of them are not the traditional tangrams. Not all of them finish in a square shape. There's something here that's six pieces form an equilateral triangle. Then you can rearrange the pieces to make a hexagon. So, like that one kind of has some appeal to me. Um, so I guess what I'm working on here is less an individual puzzle and more making puzzle coaster sets. And I'm debating, really sort of trying to figure out because, like, some of these, like, do you make an entire set of six coasters all the same puzzle, or do you give everybody their own puzzle? I don't know. Like, I don't use coasters enough to worry about how often people use an entire set of coasters. But um, the to me, it seems like if I wanted to buy a set of coasters, I wouldn't want them to be all the same thing. Everybody gets their own puzzle, but there is something fun to be said for having especially a puzzle like a tangram, where you can have two people who do them together so that like you and a partner have to figure out how to combine your tangram squares into a larger square. That appeals to me more as like a party interaction rather than everybody just gets their own puzzle. But by the same token, I mean, they become less useful. Well, I mean, tangrams you can use as an individual or as a pair, but some of the other ones where it's like, okay, so here's one square, here's another square. Work with the other person to make something out of them. Those kinds of puzzles are more likely to not be played with if you're the only one who's there. Like if you need a partner to play with, like it becomes like you only bring them out. You don't set them out on your table just to play with them randomly. Well, maybe. I don't know. So I may just do an individual set of individual puzzles and make them a set of coasters, but make it possible to buy a set of all the same puzzle. Um, However, I figure out doing this. the sales for it. I'm still debating whether it's going to be like an eBay sale or um, something like that. And I do like the idea of doing some of them in a finished wood that is varnished in a way that waterproofs it. Um, but I could also do them in acrylic, or I could do a like a painted paper mache for all it matters. I could do a couple pieces of cork. I could get a couple different pieces of plastic and work on them. Uh, press some plastic into some tiles and then cut the tiles into their component pieces and then set them into a frame for using as a coaster. Those are all doable options. Um, I'd want them to look neat in their own right. I don't want them to just be like press formed plastic that's all like a white or a junky marbled mix of plastic colors. I don't think I want to do that. I'll check with some people and see what kind of appeal that might have. Um, and as for where I think I'm going to potentially sell them, like I could do eBay or one of the sites that I mentioned before, where I was looking at uh, for the board game, the sells simple goods fetch app, Plasso. Those are like the four that I really kind of think I have potential to do stuff through. But I could do stuff through those. I could do eBay. I might be able to do product fulfillment through Amazon. I'm not sure. I have to look into what the requirements for doing that are. And I'm always a little apprehensive to sell anything through Amazon. I've seen too many of the people on there who, like, if you read the reviews, you've got people on there like, well, this product took 2 days longer than I thought it was going to take to get here, so I'm giving it 1 star. And like, I'm going to send it back to Amazon and get my money back. It's like, that's not a fault of the product or the maker. Just because you didn't plan, like, you thought you were going to get Prime delivery when it doesn't say Prime, and that's not anybody's fault but your own. Or there have been a few times I've seen people say, like, I got it as a gift for my brother and he didn't like it. Not that there was anything wrong with it, he just didn't want it. Like, well, that's not a problem of the product. And so I like people on Amazon, they're like, uh, the reviews that I've seen for some of these things, they imply to me that those are not customers you want to deal with. They're not the sharpest knife in the drawer sometimes, and their expectations are weird in comparison to the product as advertised. um, so yeah, I think that's a market that I would maybe hazard into avoiding. Now, there's possibilities of sites like Etsy where I could do some of the handcrafted stuff, and I could possibly do that. I have not had a lot of success with Etsy in the past because that is not like an auction or a sales site that is easy to be found on. Like if I go to eBay and I look up anything I'm interested in, I will see a listing of the auctions as they're coming to an end. Um, and try to catch one before like the end of the auction. Um, Etsy doesn't really have that feature. Like you go into a like you get a store, but your store maybe is not as visible as some of the other stores out there. So people have to know you're there to find you. And then once they can find you, the things you have on there, they're not going to expire as an auction does. So there's no time limit on like, oh, that's an interesting idea. And you can wander off thinking maybe like if you're interested in 4 or 5 months, you might come back and, you know, buy one or something. And that's not a steady sales venue. That's sort of like they're going to forget in a week's time that you even exist. And if they don't buy now, they're not going to buy in 4 months, is what I'm saying. And so Etsy has always been something I haven't been particularly great at. I think the other thing is I know I'm not good at pricing my things. I've made some things that I've listed for sale online before, and it always feels weird asking a steep price for an item. One other thing, I used to make a lot of things, and I'd sell them at a table at a convention. I used to do a convention table, and the pricing on things I did, I was like, I don't know. And I chronically got told people I should be asking more for the things I was selling. I'm like, but like, I feel guilty asking somebody $20 for this thing. Like, that doesn't seem like, for a single item that I crafted. I mean, yeah, it probably took me 3 or 4 hours, but I mean, I don't like, I always struggle with that part of it. I'm not as bad as I used to be about that kind of thing, but there is an aspect of some of that. And part of the reason that came into an issue with selling things online is I used to make little copper insects out of copper foil. It's a copper flashing, a thick copper plate. It's not a plate, but like it's a foil, but it's much thicker than a copper foil for stained glass or like a copper foil or an aluminum foil for stuff. It's much more like I want to say cardstock in thickness, but it's a very strong copper um, sheet, but very thin. And I would fold them into origami shapes, and I do some kirigami and origami crafts with it and set them out on the table, and people love them. And for $5 to $7, that's a decent price. But the thing about it is, when you list them online, selling them for $5 to $7 a piece, putting them in a box and shipping them, I was unable to find a way to ship them for less than $8 or $9. You're paying more for shipping than you're paying for the item. And that never seemed to be a system that worked out well. So, like maybe if I did them as sets or something like that, I could do that. But if you're just interested in a praying mantis, a copper praying mantis, a folded copper praying mantis, then you're looking for a nice $3 to $7 purchase price for the most part, maybe a $9. But you're not looking to pay $24 for this one small copper praying mantis. At least in my mind, I can't think of a time where that's a price point that made sense. Maybe people would pay 20 something dollars for that. I don't know, but the additional price, the shipping price for something like that, it's just astronomically bizarre. And there's no way to do that other than in-person sales. Now, I do have an option in the local area. I believe there was a store that opened up recently. It's like a craft store where local crafts people in the area can petition to be let in as of sale. They get a little compartment in the store that's open. I think it's open one or 2 days a week. I think it's like a Saturday and a Sunday or something like that. So on the weekends, you can go into the local mall, and it's a store in there. You wander around and you go in and look and see what local craftspeople have made, and you can buy some things there. Um, I could try something like that, um, but I do think there's like a screening or a petition to be accepted, which is on a time frame less interesting to me. Um, if I can create something that's worth being created and can sell it online, I should do that. Um, so I think I'm going to do a 6 coaster set of 6 different puzzles. Not yet sure on the material I'll use yet. Um, and then try to sell them through an online venue. Well, not try to sell them. I know I can eventually sell them, but um, and if people like the coasters, I can do another set with some other puzzles, or I can do multiples of a single puzzle and make that available. And if I want, I can probably open up an Etsy shop. Well, I think I still have one. Well, it's been a few years since I bothered. Might be time to open up a new one in a different format. And there are a couple other sites like Etsy that I could do. Now, as for material, like I know I can go to the local makerspace and use their laser cutter to cut out thin birch ply, and I can stain the birch ply, and I can sand it, give it a fine gloss or semi-gloss finish, waterproof it, and then so I could make wood ones. I could do this. I could also do something similar with a sheet of acrylic. I don't know where I'd get a sheet of acrylic at the right dimensions in such short notice. I'll actually ask some people I know if I can get some sheet acrylic somewhere nearby. It might be fun to try to do one of different types. So the acrylic would might do some press formed plastics too. I don't know. I'll look into that one. Like a recycled plastic so that it's using up junk. Because there's an appeal for that, I believe. There's enough people out there who are interested in that kind of thing. Um, so I'll see about making multiples of sets, and then maybe making them a regular listing. I might do a listing on eBay. Might do a listing on like Etsy. I don't know that I want to do Amazon, like I said. So I might just do eBay and Etsy, wood and acrylic for right now, if I can find the sheet acrylic. I know I can get the plywood, the birchwood ply. Um, and I might put some different wood veneers on the front of them because I know some wood finishes that might be fun to do, and like use a red oak and ebonize it, or maybe do a like a cherry and brass inlay, depending on how really serious I want to do and making custom sets of these. I don't know that I'll do a lot of them. Right now, it's just sort of testing out something and listing them up for sale. Um, and it's a six. I mean, let me look up what coasters usually do they come in sets. Watch it be like a 12 coaster set. 6 piece, yeah. Set of four. Okay, so 4, 6 um, coasters. And a personalized wood coaster runs about $6 minimum. What are these? Natico 6 piece coaster in black. They're from J.C. Penney. Why are they $20? That's true. I could also do them in ceramic. Oh, those are stitched leather coasters in a leather case. No, that's sort of silly. I'm not going to do something like that. Home decor. What else you got? Do you got anything else in this category? Thirsty Stone monogram coasters. Looks like looks like $15 is the cheapest coaster they got on this list. I don't know that I want to price quite that high, but some of them are like slate or etched glass, and I could do etched glass. It's not too hard to do. It's not really what I'm aiming for right here. I don't want people playing with broken pieces of glass. It seems like a very bad idea. Um, uh, Personalized wood coasters. A set of 4 coal coasters are $10. So I can see that being like $10 for 4, 5 for 2. So if you did a set of 6, no, 2 coasters are $5. So 10. Wow, my brain's just not into the math right now. Um, so another $5 on top of the $10 for those. So a 6 set would be 15. Olive wood coasters are 15. These are Amazon coasters, cork. These are just written on, and they're $10 for a set of 4. I should be able to ask 15 to $20 for a puzzle set of coasters. Yeah. that's a set of 4 wooden shaped coasters for $20. I I didn't know this was such an interesting market. Stainless steel coaster set of 4 with a tray is $10. I'm not I'm not gonna make a set like that. Um, so they do them in sets of 4 and sets of 6 is what it looks like, and a set of 4 seems like it oftentimes goes for about $10 to $20, and a set of 6 goes for 15 to 25. So that seems like I could reasonably do that. I might even price it a little under if it works out for me economically to do so. Um, yeah, it's I the pricing on that kind of thing is always something I don't know that I have the knack for. But the trick is if I put them out on Etsy and eBay for 20 to $25 and they don't sell, I can always reduce the price. It's a little harder to list them for $10 and make no money from the sale, but have to raise it to eventually get a price. It's harder to justify doing that. So I may start out at 15 to $20 and I'll list one up on eBay and I'll list one up on Etsy, I guess, and see what the sales on that kind of thing is. I think the good thing about using the acrylic and the birchwood ply are that I know I can reasonably make more sets of them in the future. Um, it's a product I can make over and over again relatively easily. It's not something that's going to take me 8 to 9 hours to make a set. Or might, depending on how I do it. Um, but I can reproduce it with some regularity. If it's something that sells well enough, I can just make more sets of that, which is part of what I want to do for this. Like, usually I'm a create a one-off piece. That's why I'm more likely to do something with the artwork category, where like I make a painting or I make a sculpture, and it's a neat thought experiment, and I can maybe make prints of it that people can buy, but I'm going to make one, and you can get copies of that one made, but I'm not going to make each individual copy. Whereas something like this, the coasters, this is not something that like I can then go say like, oh yeah, you can download a copy of this. Like you can't. Like maybe if I did an STL file for 3D printers, I could do that. But I'm not gonna be uh, outsourcing to some corporation or something to produce a unlimited run of reproductions. I mean, that's if you can do that with your product, you can do that, but that's not usually how I work. I'm a one-off kind of creator, but I do want to show the process of how to make something that you can make a product of production, not a one of a kind work, which is more of an art thing. I don't know if that makes any sense to anybody else. Is chat even available right now? I don't think so. But yeah, so this was really meant to demonstrate a way to create something that you can produce a product and then sell inspired by some creative prompts or whatever floats your boat out there, whatever interests you. And I think we're sort of at the end of today. So we're about 35 minutes in. Usually where we end up on the first few episodes of these weekly projects, I think. So we're reasonably there. I think I'll call it there. I hope to have my 6 puzzle bases selected and composed. I think I'm going to need to make them into Inkscape files in order to get a finished product out of them in the next day or two. And I'm debating whether or not, if I do them as acrylic and or birchwood ply, I might even be able to etch some patterns in the surface of them. So like Celtic knotwork or something like that, and make them a little more interesting. And then it comes down to putting a finish on them. The acrylic is probably fine from the get-go. Birchwood ply would likely require like an oil-based polyurethane. So I can polyurethane the pieces there. So that would require some staining, like sanding, staining, like sanding, pre-stain, stain, polyurethane sanding, polyurethane sanding, polyurethane sanding. About 4 or 5 coats of polyurethane would give you a decent waterproofing. And I would go with the polyurethane mainly because you can use some of the old oil and wax finishes. I think you would almost have to boil them in like an oil and wax finish and let them cool in it overnight and then buff them hard to get a really sealed birchwood ply. And I'm not sure how much distortion of the pieces would happen in that process. That would maybe prevent the puzzles from fitting together. So I would rather use a poly where there's not likely to be any real distortion and I have a little more control over the finished product. And I mean, you can always do a wax or a polish on the surface of the poly. That's easy enough to do if you really want to regularly polish them. All right, so that's, I think, sort of where we're going to go. I'm going to touch base with some people I know and see if there's anywhere I can acquire some acrylic in the next day or so. Like, can I get it delivered somewhere? I don't know if we have a local supplier that I can just go and get a large sheet of acrylic from. And even if I can't, I really want like colored acrylic, because like completely clear sheets of acrylic would make a difficult and less interesting puzzle. Although if I etch a pattern in the surface of it, that might be fine. Anyway, we're at almost 40 minutes, so I'm going to call it there for tonight. At least I didn't get sick today. That's a good one. I will be back tomorrow for the next update on what I'm doing with this. All right, see you then.